Hey everyone, thanks for joining. This is CryptoVatsik. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and please give the video a like, as I would really appreciate it. Nothing of what you're about to see is considered financial advice. These are just my opinions. Let's go. Okay, today I'm going to be covering technical analysis on AVAX, and we're currently on Binance's 12-hour chart. So from a high time frame perspective, we're going to mark out those key levels. The first one being here around $55. The second one being here around $37. The third one being here around $21. The fourth one here around $13, just under $14. So currently these are my key levels on a macro time frame for when the tides do shift eventually. This is what I'll be watching on the run up. And I'll mark out those key areas of confluence on each level now at this time as well. Okay, so in the yellow circles, all the levels of confluence here, basically just the taps of those entries, okay, sorry, of these levels here. So ultimately we had from the previous all-time high back here in February, we had this shelf that we had to really flip, right? So we had this area of bullish consolidation underneath that area of resistance, which was up here at the time. Once we flipped it into support, and it created this level of support for quite some time, right? We had another tap over here later on, and then another tap until we finally had that origin of the breakdown on a macro time frame that really when things then fell apart. And then just going back down to the next line, okay, we got these levels of respect here that it's just tapping, and then obviously near to the bottom, and we'll get to where we're seeing more in the current price action now. It's just always good to zoom out on the high time frame, mark out those key levels, because that's what lower time frame price will respect once we start to push up. So let's zoom in now closer to what we are seeing. Okay, so obviously now we're trading well under the exponential moving averages. We came up right into supply here that ended up sweeping this liquidity and getting rejected. We had the origin of the breakdown here, this level that it was really trying to flip, deviating above, and then ultimately did flip it, but then lost it immediately with some bearish consolidation here. So not very bullish, and then a new dump, okay, and then SR flipped into resistance, rejected, further down, that ultimately just this downward channel that eventually broke out to the upside, okay, terrible wick to the top, right on the EMA, rejected, again, just underneath this overall resistance, and then a new low at this time. So we've breached this low, okay, that was our macro low at the time, we've now breached it, made our new low, that's currently our macro low. Okay, let's take a little bit closer of a look here. Okay, so as I said, this is now our new low. We're struggling to get above this. We're already wicking on this current candle. A flip of this level, I would look for an entry somewhere in there, ultimately just targeting probably this previous high up here. There's obviously a range within here that we're working in, EQ of that range being right here on that macro level that I lined out, deviation below, that's fine, but basically a flip of that EQ, target the range high, and then perhaps if it continues, I'd be looking at taking out some of this liquidity up here, and if things really looked good, maybe a sweep of the previous high up here, but lots has to be done before that happens. So again, I want to see a flip of that level. Otherwise, what I would be looking at carefully as well, if we did get a sweep of this high, is a break in market structure to the downside. Okay, and I'd be looking to short, probably back down to this breakout level right here where we've flipped this lower high, lower high, lower high. Now we've got a higher high. So, potentially come back in and then get a retest of this breakout level somewhere in there. But ultimately, the trend is strong right now. We were respecting this downward trend line right here. I don't love these wicks above it right here, but call it the deviation. There's clearly a trend that we're following still. So, maybe we start to take up some of this free space in this area of the trend line. Perhaps we'll have to see, but still well below the EMAs, so the trend is still strong. If things do go south, I had this area as an area of interest. Okay, this was our bullish order block that we broke to the upside. Okay, violating the previous lower high on this doji candle right there. Hard to see, but right here on the bottom. Okay, a little bit of a doji, and then market structure break to the upside. Here's our retest right here of that bullish order block and the market structure break of that level. So if things, came back down here, I'd be interested in looking for a long potentially on a retest of this bullish order block with your stop loss being below this low. So easy risk management right there. Might not get that though. If it does push to the upside harder, then we'll see shallower retracements. So we've got this level right here that I'd also watch closely. If we do break this trend of sorts, right? If we do end up breaking that, maybe we get one more swing high deviation from that wick right there, and then we come back down. Maybe a retest of that area would be a good area to get long, and then you could put your stop loss below this low kind of thing. But just with the trend, if it does shift and has strength, we might just get shallower retracements and ultimately not much opportunity to get in. It could just keep coming like this kind of thing and then sweep the high and then it's elevator down kind of thing. That's possible too. So it just depends if you're wanting to get long or you're wanting to short. Usually I try not to fight the trend. I tried to trade with the trend, and the trend's still down. So I'd be looking primarily for shorts, although on a macro time frame, I don't love shorting down at these levels. I'm just not interested in it at this point. There's not much volatility, so just to each their own. Possibly a head and shoulders pattern as well here. Inverted head and shoulders at least. Taking it from either these two wicks as the left shoulder, the head, and then the right shoulder. Meanwhile, the neckline being right here. Potentially a breakout here of that neckline, but ultimately your target would be the extension from the neckline to the head. So your extension would be coming up confluence with this previous high right up into the area. That would be your target to get this inverted head and shoulders pattern. But potentially if we do get a stronger move across the market, then you could see again some of this area being taken up, maybe come up closer towards this downward trend line and sweep that high a little bit more. Like I said, to each their own. They'd have to be a shorter term time swing trade in my opinion, because if we did come up there, I would expect that we'd at least be coming back down to test this low again, potentially even newer lows. When we get that time of accumulation, we just kind of start to see this downward sloping trend, and these breakouts kind of tend to fail, and it takes time to really gain that momentum back in that accumulation phase. And we'll quickly just check in on the daily logarithmic chart. I'll just clean it up here. We do have a little bit more of support to play around with in here, okay? That's untested, though it looks like we've tested it. We really do have this zone from this high down to that low that we've come into. Now we are entered into it, so we do have some room to play with to the downside within this zone kind of thing, right? In this lower 50th percentile of this range, okay, closer to these lows down here, that double bottom that we had. Below this, don't know what to tell you. This is kind of a free fall. If things got super bad, I don't know. I really don't expect that to happen. I do expect potentially lower prices still in the near future, but I don't expect to come this low. Obviously, we had this downward sloping accumulation trend here that we had a beautiful breakout. That was a nice setup kind of thing. So looking for something similar to that just over here, and just going to take some time. Before we close out the video, let's just check what RSI is doing. Go to the weekly. I like to look at the weekly at RSI because it gives a little bit of hope when we start to look at how low RSI is doing. So potentially working on a higher low on RSI here. Okay, so we made our low. We just tapped oversold territory, and now working on that higher low here. So maybe bullish divergence with this lower low on the weekly, could give us a nice bear market rally kind of thing with RSI coming up into this equilibrium here, but then probably coming back down and just kind of furthering out that bear market ceiling here and furthering out our accumulation zone. Potentially, I could see that happening, but either way, RSI pretty low on the grand scheme of things. When you start to look at accumulation zones, you want to be looking near the bottom, not near the top, right? So thanks anyways for joining. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you do enjoy this content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at CryptoVatsik as well for more frequent updates. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.